Well, welcome back. This week, news leaked of Justice Stephen Breyer's upcoming retirement. It forced the Supreme Court justice to announce he will retire at the end of his term, giving Biden his first opportunity to nominate a justice and make good on his campaign promise to nominate a black woman to the high court. Joining me right now, a man who has known Justice Breyer for 60 years, constitutional attorney Alan Dershowitz is here. He's also the host of The Dersh Show on Rumble. Great to see you, Alan. Thanks very much for being here. Your reaction to what took place this week, was Justice Breyer forced to announce retirement?
Well, I think the leaking of his intended retirement was probably designed to make sure he sticks to it. Stephen is not going to be pushed around, and I think efforts to try to get him to retire may have backfired. But I knew right from the beginning that he would retire at the end of this term. He didn't want to be accused of doing what Justice Ginsburg did, and that is allowing the other side to replace him. Stephen said over and over again he does not want to be replaced by somebody who will undo his quarter century of heritage. And that is an understandable position by somebody who's been a judge for so long and has had such great influence on the judiciary.
Well, the progressives have run so many decisions that Joe Biden has made, assessed Biden's criteria for replacing Justice Breyer. He's already said he plans to select the next justice based on race and gender, Alan. Mr. Turley, Jonathan Turley, says it raises the question on whether it's actually appropriate for a politician to use such a criteria that the court itself has found unconstitutional.
Yeah, I would go even further. I think it may be unconstitutional. If he had said he was going to appoint the first the first Muslim to the court, that would be unconstitutional because the Constitution, Article 6, specifically provides that no religious test shall ever be required. I think the 14th and 19th Amendments also extend that to no racial or gender tests. Nobody should ever be excluded because they don't fit a racial or gender criteria. There are enormous numbers of qualified black judges and professors who would make great appointees to the Supreme Court. And I would applaud if the president appointed somebody who also fit those criteria. But to announce in advance, no whites, no males need apply, brings us back to the days when the Supreme Court was an exclusively white male institution. After all, it's only had 13 Catholics, 8 Jews, 3 women, and almost all recent. It was an exclusive organization for many years, and race and gender should never play a role in the selection process.
Alan, I know that you ruled out the possibility that Joe Biden will nominate Kamala Harris for the Supreme Court. What are your thoughts on the idea that Kamala might be the deciding vote on who gets the job? We have separation of powers to prevent one branch of government from having too much control. Your thoughts?
Yeah, and I think the historians and academics are divided as to whether or not the vice president gets to break a tie on confirmation as distinguished from legislation. And you don't want a justice of the Supreme Court to be both nominated and confirmed by the executive branch. Senate is supposed to advise and consent. And so I think it would really delegitimate a justice who was not voted by a majority of actual senators. And I hope the president appoints somebody who will get some Republican support, somebody who's more like Steve Breyer, a kind of moderate, progressive, centrist, but not radical leftist, who will be a knee-jerk, predictive vote for the left on every issue. If he doesn't do that, it will be 50-50. If he does nominate somebody who's more like Stephen Breyer, the vote will probably not require it to be decided by the vice president.
Yeah. That is great analysis, Alan. A quick comment on this libel case beginning Monday in federal court in Lower Manhattan. Sarah Palin versus the New York Times. How do you see this?
Well, I hope Sarah Palin wins because I have a suit against CNN for doctoring a tape of something I said and making me say exactly the opposite. The media should not be exempt. I was a law clerk when New York Times versus Sullivan was decided, and I think the Supreme Court is ready to redefine what malice means. After all, the New York Times made an honest mistake, but the New York Times has a history of making mistakes only against the right and in favor of the left. And if Palin's lawyers can document a history of the New York Times always erring on one side rather than the other, it will show a reckless disregard which might fit the criteria for malice. I have no doubt that she was defamed.
All right.
The question is,
Alan, thank you. Thank you so much, Alan Dershowitz. Have a great Sunday, everybody.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.